Hello, it's Bennett, your fantasy football commissioner. I feel a little bit guilty about not updating the weekly recap in a couple weeks, and then conveniently for me, the week that the Slim Aussies have the biggest win of the year, I conveniently get around to it. But when you're the commissioner, I guess you can make up your own rules, so bear with me here. So on that note, let's get into the weeknight recap. Really interesting week. As I mentioned several weeks ago, the Mish division is really rising to the cream of the crop here, with 4 teams over 500, while the Mash division, on the other hand, does not have any teams over 500. So the strength of the league is certainly in the Mish division this year. So let's talk about this week. Very interesting week, and it played out perfectly for things to tighten up just right. We first of all have the Catonsville Cartel, who were 1 game behind the Chicago Travelers, again beating them to even their record, both at 6-3. Not the greatest game for the Travelers, and a very solid game for the Cartel, with just, as you can see, steady 20-point performances. Giovanni Bernard has to be a great surprise. I can tell you from my experience that I drafted BenJarvus Green-Ellis, who's done nothing, and Giovanni Bernard's been a great pickup for the Cartel. So good job with that pickup. He did have 2 touchdowns before, I believe, leaving with an injury. So we'll have to see what happens there. But Tony Romo, the last-minute touchdown, obviously helped his point total. Brandon Marshall had a good night Monday night. So a nice solid 146-point performance for the Cartel. And again, they even up with the Travelers at 6-3. Darren Sproles, I think, got hurt on the first play of the game or something. So that obviously, didn't help. And you would definitely think you'd get more points from Drew Brees. And then obviously Andy Dalton having 3 interceptions and a safety on the Thursday night game versus Miami. So just not a good week for the Travelers, and they lose the game. The other big game in the Mish division was the first place Stallions, who have really had a nice, comfortable point lead over the rest of the league, have a couple tough losses. They score let me double check, the third highest in the league this week, but they fall to the Aussies, who scored the highest points. Slim Aussies, again, well, I have to gloat a little bit because I've made some very big pickups. The Slim Aussies have really been rattled with injuries this year. Number 1 receiver Julio Jones, number 3 receiver Reggie Wayne, number 2 quarterback Sam Bradford, all out for the year. Losing those 2 receivers was huge, but some nice pickups. We have Andre Ellington, who was on a bye this past week, but the previous week had 154 yards and a touchdown. Combine that with nice pickup Keenan Allen, who's pretty much an unknown guy, but has had 3 100-yard games in the past 4, and also scored 3 touchdowns, along with Zach Stacy, who got 36 points. The Rams had previously not had a single rushing touchdown, and luckily for the Aussies, Zach Stacy picked the perfect time to get 2 this past weekend. So really good pickups to make up for all the injuries that the Slim Aussies have had. And even Mike Glennon and Terrell Pryor, by no means were they on my radar as starting quarterbacks at the beginning of the year. They both did enough for me to get the win. And again, just a great point total. Of course, A.J. Green and Pierre Garçon did what they were supposed to do. And even with -4 from the Raider defense, still squeaked out the win, mainly because of Aaron Rodgers' injury Monday night. Going into the Monday night game, the Stallions needed, I believe, 26 points from the field goal kicker Crosby and Jordy Nelson. And in my opinion, Jordy Nelson would have blown that out of the water. Easily would have got another 8 points to overtake the Slim Aussies had Aaron Rodgers not got hurt. But such is life, and the Stallions do lose 177 to 185. And again, that totally tightens up the Mish division, as the Aussies were 1 game behind the Stallions as well. So moving on, before we go to the standings, let's take a look at, you got beat by a girl the other team in the Mish division, who's previously had a 6 or 7 game losing streak. They get off the schneid with a big 156 points, 40 from Tom Brady, had his best game of the year. Adrian Peterson showed up. You would not think a team that has Tom Brady and Adrian Peterson would be 2-7, but such is life again in fantasy football. So you got beat by a girl with a big win just to make herself feel better. Josh McCown filled in nicely on Monday night with 22 points. With Eli Manning on the bench or on a bye, excuse me. So nice solid point total there, and of course Ray Finkel's kicking academy, has a chance to go back over 500, and they lose that opportunity by losing. So good job, Sarah, and you got beat by a girl. The two other games, of course, we have Third and Oolong. With the second highest point total of the year, they come to 4-5. Don't forget the MASH division does get at least one team in the playoffs. So no matter how bad the division winner is, they still get a playoff spot. So at least one of these teams will make the playoffs. Unfortunately for the Calvinators, Aaron Rodgers got hurt at the beginning of the game. He might be out for 3 weeks. Christian Ponder, believe it or not, did get 18 points, but not much else. You see a lot of single digits. I've never even heard of Drew Davis for the Falcons, and I'm a Falcons fan, so not sure what the Calvinators were thinking there, but probably just, oh, I see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people on a bye, so that explains that. So tough week for the Calvinators with a lot of their guys on byes. Of course, the good news is that'll be it for all those guys. They won't have any more byes this year. Third and Oolong scored a lot of points anyway with 53 from Andre Johnson. I didn't even realize. I didn't watch the Sunday night game because I had no fantasy guys in there. 9 catches, 229 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Holy shnikes. Big day for Andre Johnson. Easily canceled out 0 from Nate Washington. I was checking Nate Washington's stats out. He's one of those guys. He's always been up and down for the last 5 seasons, and he's one of those fool's gold fantasy guys. He has a couple good weeks. You see week 3 and week 4, and then ever since then hasn't even had 100 yards, barely had 100 yards total since then. So tough break there, but nonetheless, Third and Oolong, 179 points to easily defeat the Calvinators in bye week hell, 179-118. And then finally, we have to mention She Got Game really not stepping up here. Previously was 3-5, not too much out of the division, but as you can see, only 77 points and 3 guys on byes in the starting lineup. That, of course, is rule number 1 for fantasy football, is you at least have to put guys in that are playing that week. So really no excuse. I'm a little upset with Sheree there. Hopefully she's not bowing out on the team because, she could have put T.Y. Hilton in and at least had been respectable. And there's no reason why to have T.Y. Hilton on the bench and Andre Roberts. So maybe she was on vacation. I'll give her a little pass if that's the case. But a really, really lame performance for She Got Game. Only 77 points. And again, having 3 starters on byes. No excuse for that. Idaho Darth Taters did score 160 points, so don't want to take anything away from them. 28 from Andrew Luck, and Arian Foster didn't get any. He must not have played. And, of course, 30 from Ron Gronkowski. So, interesting division standings. We'll check that out now. As you can see, the Mish division, 4 teams tied at 6-3. Stallions do have the point lead, still a 100-point advantage over the second-place team. But if you look, the standings in the Mish division, at least, do reflect the teams that have scored the most points. You can see that's the order there. So at 6-3, the tiebreaker has to be total points. And the Slim Aussies, the 2-time defending champs, have now won 4 in a row. So don't sleep on my team here because I'm not giving up on the season by any stretch. So I take second place by virtue of having more points, but the cartel not far behind with 1443. Travelers need a little bit of help there, and of course you got beat by a girl taking up the rear. Going to the MASH division, again, at least one of these teams is guaranteed to get a playoff spot. So again, not over yet, even though not a single team is over 500. 4 teams tied at 4-5. Ray Finkel's Kicking Academy does have a nice 70-some-odd point lead. Would still be 4th place in the Mish division, mind you, point-wise. So, but in terms of the division, does have a healthy lead over 3rd and Oolong. So there's your standings there. If the playoffs started today, it would be the Stallions, Aussies, and Cartel, and Ray Finkel's Kicking Academy in the playoffs with a 6-3 team not in the playoffs. But the playoffs don't start today, and we do have 5 more weeks of regular season. So please don't give up. Keep plugging away. Fill those, injuries are a part of fantasy football. Buys are a part of fantasy football. Even if you never heard of the guy, do your research. Pick up the guys that you need. Here's my team. I haven't done my lineup for next week. I'm just sort of poking around here. So I'm going to go. Thanks for listening. Again, sorry about no updates. Obviously, I've been slacking, and this was a good excuse to log on and gloat a little bit. So good luck this week. If you haven't sent your money already, please do so immediately. And thanks for listening. I know I've been rambling a little bit, so thanks for the time, and have a good week, everyone.